When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Tryna stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll.
Tyler.
Hey, Pierre. How we doing?
Welcome to the New Score podcast. My name is Pat. This is my co-host, TYG, Tyler Pratt. Tyler, how we be doing?
Cheers. We be doing. We're back in action, back, ready to attack. Oh, back, black. Once you go black, you never go back.
It's good to have you back, brother. Today, we have a very special episode debuting a brand new segment called Top 5, where we will be going through our top 5 Drake albums. And it was very tough. Very tough, this one. We're starting off on the right foot with this segment because this was a battle trying to narrow this one down and then ranking 5. But we also have pet peeves we're going to talk about. And then after that, we're going to dive into some NBA and NHL. We missed you last week, Tyler, when we went through the first half of the NBA and NHL seasons. So I just want to check in with you, some things that you're thinking, what you're looking forward to going down the stretch in both these leagues. We do have a guest joining us to talk some hockey in a bit as well. But I think we should start it out. Let's start out with our pet peeve segment. Tyler, what is your pet peeve of the day?
Pet peeves. Couple. 2. This one just popped in. Light bulb. If you're going to chop mud with the boys, you got to be able to chug with the boys. Am I right? Cheers. Two. This one's going to hit home for the boys. I know it. So, if you got a girl, right, and it's Friday night, Saturday night, Saturday afternoon, Friday evening, you know, you had a long week at work, you put in 45, 50, 55 hours. You're just trying to, and then relax and game with the boys, but your girl's hounding you. Listen, baby, I'm sorry. All I want to do is just shoot some puck. I want to skate around. Maybe I want to hit the links with the boys, right? That's all I'm trying to do. And guess what? All the time, as soon as that Xbox turns off, guess where all that time goes? Right to you. So, ladies, give your boys some time to game with their boys. Pet peeve.
Amen. My pet peeve of the day. So I've been living in Florida for now 6 years. 6 years. And one thing that has just drove me crazy ever since moving down here is the fact that people who are down here just visiting or people who just moved down to Florida, this time of year comes around and there's some mornings where, waking up, going to work in the morning, it's 40 degrees. So I don't know, like 40 degrees is not cold to some people. Like it's just not cold. But to me, 40 degrees is cold no matter where you are, first of all. So 40 degrees is pretty damn cold. I don't care where you are. But these people that come down, or visit, and they always had that comment where you might make a complaint where, hey, it's a little chilly out. It's a little nippy out here today, down here in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
The people that say, you don't know cold. You don't know cold. I just want to be like, motherfucker, I was raised in upstate New York where it's freezing, right? And disgusting. And that's why I'm not there anymore. And then after that, I lived in the coldest city in the United States of America. Google it if you want. Fairbanks, Alaska, where I was stationed in the military, coldest city in America. Slept outside when it was 40 to 60 below zero. So these people that come down, they're like, you don't know cold. I know cold. I know a cold motherfucker. And the fact that once you start living down in Florida for a good amount of time, there is something that happens, whether it's your blood thinning. But to me, like, because I can handle the heat, and I wouldn't have been able to handle the heat like this before, you know what I mean? And then it gets down to 50, 60 degrees. It is a little chilly for me. I'm sorry. But cold is cold. And the people that have that smart ass comment, you don't even know cold, because they just assume because I live in Florida that I've lived in Florida my whole life, and that I've never left the state. So that is my pet peeve. People with that smart ass comment, you don't know cold down here in Florida, because you don't know me. But let's move on to our debut top 5 segment. Let's get into these top 5 Drake albums. This is going to be Tyler, I want to know how you want to do it. Do you want to kind of go like you go your 5, I go my 5, or do you want to just go lay it all out at once?
Let's do we'll go one for one. Like I'll do my number 5, you do your number 5, and then we can even snake, you know what I mean?
I like
and
it.
We'll go from there.
Go ahead. Give me your number 5 Drake album.
All right. And by the way, we might have already mentioned this. This was not easy. All right, number 5. Views. Number 5 is Views for me. And what I can even do is kind of let me explain why Views is number 5 for me. Just in case nobody can think of a few of the hits off of that album. That is where it started off with Keep the Family Close. You had Hype. You had Still Here. Controller. And then One Dance. Baby, I like your stuff. Grammys, Child's Play, Pop Style, Fire and Desire.
Oh, Fire and Desire is my jam.
That's an underrated hit, actually. So Views for me slides in at number 5.
This was the album for me that was like the one that was left off. Probably would have been 6. Just didn't make my list. But that I'm glad it made it on yours so that we could talk about it, give it the respect it deserves, because yeah, there were some bangers on that album, and didn't make mine, but incredible album. Number 5 for me is If You're Reading This, It's Too Late.
Yeah.
So If You're Reading This, It's Too Late was released in February of 2015. Great album. Start off with Legend, and then Energy, and then 10 Bands, and then Know Yourself, and then No Tellin'. So right there, top 5. You're ready to run through a wall after those 5 songs. And then you got Madonna, you got Six Gods, Star 67, a personal favorite of mine. Preach with Party Next Door.
Yeah. Preach.
Wednesday Night Interlude. Used To with Wheezy. Now and Forever. 6 Man. Company with Travis Scott. Still one of my favorite Drake songs. You and the Six. Jungle. Capped off by 6 p.m. in New York. My number 5 Drake album. If You're Reading This, It's Too Late.
That was actually perfect timing, because that was my number 4. Was If You're Reading This, It's Too Late. So like he went through the whole list. There wasn't one miss. There wasn't one miss on that album. And that's why this ranked in at number 4 for me as opposed to Views, because you know, every Drake album you can go start to finish, but you know, there's going to be a few songs where you're like, no, I can skip that one. On this one, there's no need to skip. You just let it play. You can put it on shuffle, regular, whatever you want to do. That thing's going to play out the whole thing. So that was my number 4. So right back to you.
My number 4, taking it back to the high school days. We would have been sophomores in high school when this dropped. Thank Me Later. Start out with number 1, Fireworks with Alicia Keys, legendary. Then you got Karaoke. You got The Resistance, Over. How many times did we jam out to Over when we were just driving around nonstop?
Especially
Show
in
Me a
CJ's
Good
car.
Time. Up All Night with Nicki Minaj. Fancy with T.I. and Swiss Beats. Shut It Down with The Dream. I mean, these are all just one after the other. Unforgettable with Jeezy. Light Up with Jay-Z. Like, the features on this album were just sick. Miss Me with Wayne. CeCe's Interlude. Find Your Love. And then Thank Me Now. My number 4 album, Thank Me Later.
Yeah, that's because that was Drake's very first album. A lot of people are going to sleep on that one. They're going to forget about that. That was an HM for me. A little honorable mention. Yeah, Thank Me Later didn't make my top 5, but there's a ton of classics on that one. But yeah, so number 3 for me is Scorpion. Scorpion was like that 2-part album where he released the first 12 and then the next 13. It was a 25 song. That's Survival, Nonstop, Elevate. You had God's Plan, I'm Upset, Mob Ties, Can't Take a Joke, Sandra's Rose, Jaded, Nice for What, Finesse, Blue Tint, Don't Matter to Me, After Dark. And that's not even all of them, but Scorpion to me, that was it was tough. That was either 3 or 4. I ranked that in just above. If you're reading this, it's too late, but that's number 3 for me.
That's
Elevate.
It's just proving my point more and more of how difficult this is, because that album didn't make my top 5. But another one that I could just listen to on shuffle from start to finish.
Yep.
My number 3, going to the year after my last album, so we're going to 2011 now, Take Care. I mean, you could have argued this to be number 1. Turns out to be number 3 for me. Over My Dead Body, Shot for Me. I used to play that song on repeat. I remember that shit was Headlines, Crew Love with The Weeknd, loved Crew Love. And then you got Take Care with Rihanna. You got Marvin's Room. Marvin's Room was one of our favorites. Buried Alive interlude with Kendrick. Underground Kings. We'll Be Fine with Birdman. Make Me Proud. Make Me Proud is still one of my favorite Drake songs. Nicki Minaj.
Oh, yeah.
Lord Knows with Rick Ross.
Still bang that to this day.
Yep. Cameras with when Good Ones to Go interlude. Love that. Doing It Wrong. The Real Her. Look What You've Done. Hell Yeah, Fucking Right.
Andre 3000, right?
Yeah. Hell Yeah, Fucking Right.
Hell Yeah, Fucking Right.
Practice. The Ride. The Motto. And Hate Sleeping Alone as the 2 bonus tracks on that. I mean, Take Care was
elite.
Like I said, you could argue that being number 1. I'm sure that's a lot of people's number 1, but Take Care is my number 3. Go ahead.
Number 2 for me was Take Care. 2 for me was Take Care. So echo everything you just said. Just an absolute classic. I think that was actually his most successful album. I think it was like 6 times platinum or something stupid like that. But either way, yeah, that was number 2 for me.
All right, my number 2. I'm kind of cheating a little bit because it's technically not an album, but I'm taking it way back to 2009. So Far Gone.
Yes, sir.
Lust for Life, Houston, Atlanta, Vegas, Successful, Let's Call It Off, November 18th, Ignorant Shit, A Night Off, Say What's Real, Little Bit, Best I Ever Had, Unstoppable, Uptown.
Uptown.
The Ohio State Buckeyes reference in that
Mhm.
song. I was hooked. First time I ever heard that. Sooner Than Later, Bria's interlude, the calm, outro, brand new, and then congratulations. So far gone. I know it's not technically an album, but it is my number 2 Drake product.
We'll make
Go ahead.
exceptions. We'll make exceptions. I mean, everything. But that's because back in the day, you had to drop, a couple mixtapes, and then you released a big project. Nowadays, everything you drop is an album because everybody just wants the streams, and they don't, you don't give out nothing for free anymore. Whereas back in the day, it was a grind, and you put out those free mixtapes to promote yourself. So far gone, yeah. That was a good one. Number 1 for me is Nothing Was the Same. Nothing Was the Same is number 1 for me. Just an absolute classic. For some reason, it split this up into 2. It's in 2 set on my phone. I have like tracks 3, 7, 8, 12, 13, 14 in one spot, and then the rest in another. So it's weird. But
this is my number 1 as well. So
perfect.
let's dive into it.
Yeah, you can go. I mean, I think there's just way too much heat on this one. Tuscan Leather, just to start it off, is one of my absolute favorite Drake songs of all time, and that's just the intro to the album. A couple other ones on here, like 305 to My City. I love The Language, Worst Behavior, Pound Cake, Worst. Fucking Never Loved Us. Which grew on me, and then Come Through. Ooh, 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 ooh. Absolute bangers all over the place. And that's not even, I didn't even shout out where is it? Was it
The Language?
The Language was one. All Me, that was the other one. All Me was was a banger.
Furthest Thing.
Banger for a minute. Yeah.
Wu-Tang. Own It.
Mm-hmm.
Own it. Own it. Own it.
Own it.
Own it. Own it. Connect. 3 balls.
3 balls.
And the pitch.
What an album, though. What an album.
Number 1 album. And this was it. This time, I remember this dropped when I had just gotten to TC3, and I was just getting to like know all of the dudes on my baseball team, just getting like to be boys with them. And we listened to this album just like wherever we went. It was in my car. I was the only one that had a whip, driving these fuckers around, and it was just this album on repeat. Whatever party we were going to, whether we were going, to the grocery store or whatever to get food, it was nothing was the same everywhere we went. And that was no joke for like the entirety of our time together. So I have some real good memories when it comes to this album. And then it's banger after banger, hit after hit. You have everything on this album. You have the, like the songs you get hyped to. You have the songs you can, get emotional to or whatever. There's just so much, like the lyrics in this album and everything. That's number 1 for me as well. So I'm glad we can agree on that.
Oh yeah. To me, this was like the definition of a masterpiece, like an album that you just can't hate on. There's just nothing that disappoints on this one. It was just this was the easiest part of the list for me. Putting this at number 1. 2 through 5 was tough, but putting this number 1 was the easiest part.
I agree.
Easiest part for me. Speaking of, I'm about to take this easy walk over to the fridge and grab myself a nice easygoing spiked tea, baby.
Before you do that, just give us a rundown. 5 through 1. What was it?
5 through 1. So again, 5 views. 4, if you're reading this, it's too late. 3, Scorpion. That's my zodiac sign. 2, Take Care. And number 1, Nothing Was the Same.
My 5 were, if you're reading this, it's too late. Number 5, Thank Me Later. Number 4, Take Care. Number 3, So Far Gone. Number 2, and Nothing Was the Same. Number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Tyler, why don't you go get your beverage and we'll start talking some NBA, NHL.
That sounds good. And then I was gonna say if we can just kind of have like what our least favorite album was. Honestly, never mind. Easily worst for me. I don't even listen to. I don't think I listen to anything off that album. I'm gonna be honest. I don't. I digress, but that's the lowest for me. BRB.
All right, Tyler, you did miss our first half of the season recap talking about the NBA while you were out last week. So I just want to know, what are some thoughts that you've had about what we've seen in the NBA so far this season? Anything you may expect going forward? Some things that we talked about last episode were the in-season tournament, whether we thought it was a success. Looking back at it now, we recapped the trade deadline. We talked about some teams that have been impressive first half of the season, some teams that have been letdowns. So those were some things that we covered. We went through on last episode. Any thoughts you have on any of that?
Yeah. I guess I'll start with the in-season tournament. I at first I didn't know what to think, right? I just had no clue what it was about, how it was formatted, how it was going to be done. They kind of broke it up, right? Like you would play like qualifying games on like a weekend, and then maybe your next game or two was a regular season game, and then you went back to playing another in-season tournament game. So it was kind of weird how that was formatted. It might just take us a little while to get used to that because it's brand new. But I do like the fact that they're at least trying something new to keep fans engaged early, right? I think this in-season tournament might have been just as much about fan, engagement and interest as much as it was player interest, and getting them to play as opposed to kind of, taking time off. I would say that this in-season tournament's probably going to get better year to year. I think we'll see improvements, and I think everyone will kind of start to enjoy it. So, I approve of it to start. Second, I guess like surprises. I think early to mid-season so far, surprise for me in the East would probably be the Orlando Magic. I think that when you look at their roster, is it Ben Carroll? Is it Paolo?
Yeah.
Paolo Ben Caro. I normally
Banchero.
butcher his last name, Banchero. I can't tell if it's Banchero or Bancaro. Either way, I like his game. You can tell that he's got good touch mid-range, and eventually he's going to get that three-point shot. Like he's going to get it down, and then he's going to be scary because that dude is big, athletic, he's strong, he's crafty, he's got good moves, and then defensively, I think he's going to be a great all-around player. And then the Magic are going to be in that top 4 conversation for probably 3 to 5 years with him and Wagner, excuse me, Franz. He's got game too, and a couple other pieces like even Markelle Fultz. I don't know what they're going to do with him or if he's even going to contribute to their success. But either way, right now they're sitting 8 games over 500. They're number 6 in the East, and they're only a game out of 4th place. They're a game behind the Knicks for the number 4 seed. So they're kind of like my early mid-season surprise. And I'm happy for them because our boy Weed is a huge Magic fan, and so is Nona. Shout out Lake Nona. Disappointment to me would be the Bulls. For whatever reason, every year the Bulls disappoint. I know Lonzo Ball getting hurt like every year for the past 3 years doesn't help, but you would think with a guy like Levine, DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic, Kobe White is kind of came onto the scene this year. Caruso, Billy Donovan. Is he their coach right now? I think Billy Donovan's their coach. Yeah. Like Patrick Williams, I like his game too. Like I don't know. And they have
that young
Drummond
kid, I can't pronounce his last name, but his first name's Ao
Dasumu or something like that.
Yeah, I like his game too.
Dude, they have a lot of good players. They have a lot of good players, and then guys like, the veterans like DeRozan, Vucevic, Levine's in his prime. Like, you would think they'd be able to get it going, but right now they're sitting at 28 and 32 in the 9 spot. They'll be in the play-in conversation, but they just don't show the ability to just win games consistently, and I don't know why. So they're kind of like my big disappointment year to year. And then if I were to talk about the West, the biggest surprise for me, probably, I guess the Thunder being 41 and 18. That they have a lot of good players and good pieces, but I guess I didn't think that they would be a half game out of first place right now. Like, if I were predicting them, I wouldn't have put them in the top 3 or 4. I knew they were going to be good, especially getting Chet. And Shai Gilgeous is a fucking dog. He's a superstar. So I knew they were going to be good. I just didn't think they would be this good, especially early on. Right, exactly. Like, they kind of took off early and they haven't looked back. Like, they haven't had a stretch where they played bad ball. And then biggest disappointment, the Grizzlies without Ja, that's not like, I can't really call them a disappointment. I'd say probably I don't know. The West has kind of went how I thought. For me, maybe the Mavs.
Lakers, Warriors?
Like,
Or you expected that? You expected that downfall?
Because they're both sitting like 4 to 5 games above 500 right now, so they're not playing terrible. But for the Lakers, yeah, you have LeBron and AD, but aside from that, their roster, they have no depth. And with as much as AD gets hurt and LeBron rests, I don't expect them to be a top 6 team. So to be like in that 7 to 10 range is kind of on par for what I thought. The Warriors, kind of the same deal, just with the way that they're aging. Like, Klay Thompson, though, I know he's had a kind of a disappointing year. Steph's still Steph, but yeah, they're kind of in the same.
I want to talk about them. They're getting it going a little bit here, though, because they're getting these young guys to step up. So it's not like the Lakers where LeBron and AD, everything, they're pretty much carrying the load. Mm-hmm. The Warriors young guys are really stepping up. Like Potts, I can't pronounce his whole last name, but the young guard who's starting over Klay now. Klay's coming off the bench, and since Klay's been coming off the bench, we've seen a much more efficient Klay Thompson out there. So I think he's really, fitting into that role. And then Kuminga as well. Kuminga is really starting to come along to be a player. And, you're going to have your ups and downs with Wiggins. But if Draymond's out there, if Curry's out there, if Klay is playing, a lot more efficient like he has been lately, and then you get just some production from these younger guys. And then Gary Payton Jr. is back now as well. So he's going to be in the fold with that team going down the stretch. I think the Warriors are like, if they get in as 7-8 seed, there's no 1-2 seed that wants to see that team in the first round. I guarantee you that. But go ahead. You were about to bring up the Mavs.
Yeah, I guess they would be my disappointment personally. The West is tough, though. Dude, the West is so tough. It's deep. The West is so deep. 1 through 10. Like that. So the play-in tournament right now, if it were the play-in tournament, you would have Kings, Lakers, Mavs, Warriors. Those would be the matchups. And all 4 of those teams, you obviously have to give LeBron and AD their respect. If they're in the playoff game and they're going all out, they're not resting. They're going to play 40 minutes. Like they're I wouldn't put it past them. They can make an upset. Warriors, you're just talking about them. They can do something. With the Mavs, it's just like you have Luka, you have Kyrie, right? So you have 2 guys who can put up 30 on any given night, any given day. Either one of them can kind of take over and put up 30. As you see, Luka gets 35 in his sleep. It's like they just don't defend. They do not defend the way that they should be able to defend. Last night they played the Celtics and they just got mopped in the fourth quarter. They gave up 138 points. They gave up. You cannot win basketball games giving up 130 plus points. You just can't. And the Celtics are a good test. They're the best team in the East for sure. They might have the best record in the league right now. But that's the thing is the Mavs just aren't defending. The moves they made at the deadline to get PJ and Gafford give them more depth, flexibility, and defense. So I like that. But that's the thing is they have to get everybody just effort, fucking effort. And you shouldn't have to ask people to give effort when you're paying them tens of millions of dollars every year. So yeah, but I can go on about how much the Mavs piss me off, but I'll save it for another day, I guess.
So you mentioned the Washington trade to Dallas. Is there any other moves that happened around the deadline that really intrigued you?
I'm trying to think right now of like what even some of the bigger trades that even have. Oh, the Knicks. I really like what the Knicks did at the deadline. They didn't really give up any. They didn't give up anybody who's really going to be a big part of their rotation, and then they add two guys who are going to be a big part of their rotation. They got Bogdanovich and Alec Burks, and Alec Burks has been balling this year too, especially over the last like 4 or 5 weeks. He's been playing really well, and then we know what Bogdanovich brings, to the table every night. He's a solid player. He can step in and be a 15 to 20 point scorer in the starting lineup, or he can come off the bench and still put that up. Same thing with Alec Burks. He can give you 15 to 20 off the bench too. So those are huge moves to just, add more depth to that team. And if they can get Mitchell Robinson back for a playoff push, that'd be huge. Do you know if he's out for like the whole year? Has that been determined yet?
I'm not sure what the deal with Robinson is. I'm not sure what the ETA on Randall is. And then
He'll be back.
we talk about those moves that they made at the deadline, but that's not even, including getting Anunoby before the deadline came.
Yes.
And right after they made that move,
huge.
their team, I believe they were like 13-1 was the run they went on right after they traded for him. And then he goes down, unfortunately. But you bring him back with those other guys.
Mm-hmm.
And the Knicks, they could make a run here.
You want to hear a crazy stat that CJ told me the other day? So I think Brunson right now is like 27 or something like that. So Brunson at his age right now this season, and then Allen Iverson at the same age, there was a comparison of the numbers, and Brunson was kind of just like blowing his statistics out of the water. Like field goal percentage, I think Iverson was just over 40%, and his 3-point percentage was like 28. And I was like, what was that, a bad year for Iverson? Like what happened? Like Iverson shooting 28% from 3-point range to me was just kind of crazy. Maybe he did. I don't know. Maybe I just thought he was a way better shooter than he actually was. But either way, I think that more so goes to show how good Brunson is playing currently. And that team, again, they can be gritty. They got the coach for it. It's kind of clutch that some of those guys are hurt because Thibodeau, he'll run them into the ground. That dude doesn't care. He did that with the Bulls back in the day. He'll just he doesn't care. He wants to win every night. He doesn't play those fucking games of, oh no, you can get it. You rested today. He's like, no, you're getting paid. You come to work. We're going to win some ball games. That's what we do. I like the Knicks.
Yeah, that's another thing, like the whole mentality that they have, and they just defend. They will defend you night in, night out. Brunson, he's in the MVP race, has to be with the season that he's had. And the New York Knicks are fun to watch. Another team I wanted to mention in the East. Thoughts on the Cleveland Cavaliers? Because right now this team is sitting as the 2 seed in the East, and young team. They got Donovan Mitchell in there now as their leader, and they're really taking off this year. I know.
Yeah.
A couple of nights ago, they had I
don't want to talk about it.
Classic game against your Dallas Mavericks, where it was just back and forth late, and the Cavaliers just did not die. They ended the game last 2 minutes like 6 for 6 from 3. Max Strus hit 5 of them, including a 60-footer at the buzzer to win it. So this team's been fun to watch this year. Do you think that the Cavs, or so right now in the East, obviously you got Boston kind of in their own, they're at their own tier, I would think. And then the next level down, you have Cleveland, Philly, Milwaukee, the Knicks. And then I would say maybe another level down from that, you would have like the Magic, as you mentioned. And then I'd say Indiana's in that tier as well. But out of those teams that are underneath Boston right now, when we're talking about Cleveland, we're talking about Philly, Milwaukee, and who am I missing? Cleveland, Philly, Milwaukee, and the Knicks.
The Knicks.
Out of those teams that are below Boston right now, who do you give the best chance to take them down in a 7-game series?
I would honestly say Philly. I think that if you get, and this is assuming everybody's healthy, right? If you get Philly with a healthy Embiid, no one on Boston is stopping him. No, there's nobody stopping Embiid. And not just on Boston. It really can be almost anybody. The dude is a beast. He is an absolute problem when he's healthy. And the pieces that they have around, like Philadelphia has a good squad. It's just Embiid not being healthy, it's just killed them so far. But once he's back, they can make a deep run. They have the best shot to take down Boston, in my opinion. After that, I mean, the thing is, like, I like what Cleveland's doing right now. I love how they can defend, because they have good front court and back court depth, especially with the big guys. I love Jared Allen and Mobley together defensively, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't know if they can score with some of those other teams. I mean, in Milwaukee, if they're fully healthy, that trio of Dame, Giannis, and Chris Middleton, and then you add in all the pieces that they have, they can be real dangerous too. And then we already talked about the Knicks and their depth. So those are the 4 teams I expect to be in the conference semifinals: is Boston, Milwaukee, the Knicks, and the Sixers. And I think the Cavs, they have a chance, of course. But those are my 4 in the East.
Talking about the Western Conference, right now the T-Wolves are dominating. They've looked great all season. They're that number 1 seed right now. But as I said last episode, to me, Denver is still the team to beat. The Nuggets are still the team to beat. Once the playoffs come, I don't care what seed they are, they're the team to beat. Kind of a 2-part question. Do you feel the same way when it comes to Denver? And then B, how caught up on Minnesota's record are you right now with what you think about their chances in the postseason?
I don't think that Denver is at the status in the West as like Boston is in the East. It's a little closer in the West for the top 3 or 4 than it is in the East, in my opinion, or at least for the number 1, I should say. The Timberwolves are in first right now in the West by half game. I think, yeah, they're 42-18, and then the Thunder are 41-18, the Nuggets 41-19. The Timberwolves, to me, are just like, I don't know. I feel like I'm waiting for them to fall off for some reason. It's just, I feel like it's going to happen. Not that I want it to, but I feel like it is, because I love Anthony Edwards. That front court duo of Cat and Gobert, I think, was tough for a lot of people to envision it working out to start, but I think they've shown that they can play together and play well. And then adding Mike Conley was a huge, like, he's like a big glue, like the glue guy. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but like he's a big locker room presence, a veteran who I think has brought them up to that level where they wanted to go. I feel like he was kind of like, they needed that point guard, and he was that missing piece for them. But yeah, I don't think the Nuggets are the team to beat in the West like the Celtics are in the East.
So last question, last thing we went over last week without you. Who is your MVP frontrunner right now?
MVP front runner right now would be LUKA, and then maybe I think top 2 for me are LUKA and then Shy. I think because you have to still put and then Jokic, obviously you would throw Jokic in there, but you have to put success in there too, right? Like that's always a big part to the MVP award. Yeah, you can have, a guy like a Russell Westbrook who was averaging a triple double, but if the Thunder at that time were, 10th, 9th, 10th place in the West with like a 500 record, then you have another guy who might not be averaging a triple double, but he's putting up, elite top tier stats, but that team is number 2 or 3 in the conference. That holds a lot of value in my opinion as far as the MVP race goes. So that's why like I throw Shy and Jokic in there is because they're number 2 and 3 respectively. And then LUKA is putting up like 34, 35 a game right now. In addition to the assists, the rebounds, and his shooting percentage and efficiency, it's all great. He's playing out of his mind, but they're number 8 in the West. So
Defense.
Right. No defense. But yeah, those are kind of my top 3, all in the West. I don't know why that is, but all West guys.
No, I would have to agree with that. With Embiid not being healthy, I would say those are the 3 guys. I would probably put Shy number 1, just because, like you said, team success, and he's really taken on the role as being the leader on that team. I know they traded for Gordon Hayward, a savvy vet in that rotation, but SGA is their leader. He is their guy, night in, night out, offense, defense, brings it, everything. And he's got the Thunder balling out right now in the West.
Yeah, that's such a sleepy trade, that Gordon Hayward one, because I feel like, I don't know, I feel like over the last couple of years he's been hurt and hasn't played much. And even when he has been, he's played for Charlotte, who has just stunk. So even if he was kind of, quietly having a good year, he kind of still would fly under the radar because nobody cares about teams that aren't playing well, especially like Charlotte. They don't get a lot of media attention. So if Gordon Hayward can like get healthy, he could be huge for that team. Yeah, I think that was like a really sneaky good trade at the deadline by them.
For sure. But that is it. We're going to wrap up our NBA conversation for the day. Until next time, let's get into some NHL talk. Let's bring in our guest coming up next. Joining us now to go over the latest going on in the NHL, Adam Rude. Welcome back. How we doing?
Fucking terrible.
Rudy.
No other way to describe it being a Devils fan. Other than
Talk
that,
to me.
just peachy. Oh, we're gonna get into it when we start talking about the hot and cold takes of the teams, because the Devils are definitely under the cold category. But before we jump into that, breaking news in the NHL: Evgeny Kuznetsov just got placed on waivers by the Capitals. Their shining star during their Stanley Cup run. He's getting sent down to Hershey if someone doesn't claim him.
Wow. Big news.
Yeah, and he's going to be an
Now-
expensive minor leaguer too.
That's what I'm saying. He's got to be making over $9 million, correct?
I think like 7-8, give or take.
7-8. Okay,
Yeah.
so if a team wants to pick him up, they have to take on that contract, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and not a lot of teams are going to have that spare cap. So it's going to be interesting to see. Maybe a team makes a move or something happens so they could bring him on. That is big news, though. I'm glad you touched on that. But let's get into some teams that are hot. We'll start out with some teams that are hot right now. Last week we talked about the New York Rangers in the East. Who've been playing really good hockey. We talked about how you like the Florida Panthers, and then in the West we talked about Vancouver, who was getting hot in the West. But anything changed since the last time I spoke with you? Who are some teams that are hot right now?
So I mean, it's definitely the Rangers. The Rangers are eating up the NHL right now. Matt Rempe came on. He debuted in the Stadium Series, and he's taking the league by storm. He's bringing back the enforcer role. Dark horse for a Stanley Cup run right now is Nashville. No one saw them coming. They looked like they were going to be big sellers at the deadline, and all of a sudden they're in a wild card spot, and they're just going up right now, which is insane to think from where they were just a few weeks ago.
Is Vancouver still looking good in the West, or are they falling off a little bit?
Nope. Vancouver's still holding strong. I know we touched base a couple weeks ago, and I mentioned how they'll get good, then they'll sell their players off for spare parts. They're kind of changing the narrative over there. They just extended Pettersson for 8 years. He's going to be making like 11.2, which is unheard of for Vancouver. They're usually pretty cheap about it.
We talk about some teams that are hot right now. Who are some teams that are falling off?
Yep, that's going to be my Devils, 100%. All year it's been the same story. I think they're on pace to break the NHL record for most times giving up the first goal in a game. I think they've done it in like 49 out of like 50 something chances. So they're always giving up the first goal. Their goaltending's failing them. Management hasn't made any moves. They are heavy in the trade rumors right now, but things are kind of changing on that front. And I think the time has passed. Like, Lindy Ruff needs to be fired, as you can tell by my headline. But at this point in the season, they're just going to let him ride it out. And then they're going to have to fire him in the offseason. But something has to change. They need goaltending, and they need a stay-at-home defenseman.
Any other teams, these last couple of weeks that have really fallen off, been a disappointment?
I mean, the Lightning. I'd probably say the Lightning. They've kind of been teetering on like having a divisional spot versus a wild card, but they're losing a lot of games that they should win. They were winning against Buffalo with like 6 minutes left. They took a dumb penalty. They let Buffalo tie the game, and then they took another penalty. I think it was Kucherov took the penalty in overtime, and they gave it right to Buffalo within like 2 minutes. So they got to figure some things out because they're still a contender and they still have a chance, and their window's closing quick with Stamkos and Hedman aging out.
Go Crunch.
Hey, they won last night.
I want to talk about, you mentioned how the Devils are getting involved in some trade rumors right now.
Yep.
What are some other trade rumors that are going on right now? And then also talk about this move the Dallas Stars made.
Oh, yeah, they brought in Tanev. Tanev was one of those players. He's on an expiring contract, so everyone knew he was going to get moved. So he got sent down to Dallas. They needed some help shoring up the back end because they're a top-tier team. They're gearing up for a Stanley Cup run. He'll probably end up somewhere else next year. They didn't give up a whole lot for him, which is good on their end. But Calgary's selling off pieces for sure. Lyubushkin got moved to Toronto, so they're shoring up the defenseman area. But the biggest change as far as trade rumors go from when we last spoke, goalies are coming at a premium now. Markstrom was talking about getting moved. Saros in Nashville, he was on the block. They were trying to sell him off, and Gibson. But now all of a sudden teams are backtracking. So Nashville offered Saros to the Devils, which is crazy considering how well they've been playing. But they also asked for an arm and a leg. They wanted Dawson Mercer, like 2 first-round picks, which makes sense for Saros. As far as like Markstrom goes, Calgary wanted to trade him to New Jersey. They asked him to waive his no-trade clause, but now they're backtracking on it, and they're like, yeah, we don't think we want to trade him anymore. And New Jersey's like, okay, we're fine. We don't need you to retain any of the salary. We'll still take him. But it looks like teams are holding on to goalies. So I think it's only defensemen. Maybe Gensel gets moved. It's going to be tough, especially with his health this year. But there's not too many forwards on the market. I know the Rangers are going after Zegras and Henrique, but we'll see how that pans out.
So I want to ask you about Tyler and I's NHL teams. First, starting with Pittsburgh. GM comes out and he says, a little over a week ago, he says the next 2 games are going to decide whether we're buyers or sellers at the deadline. They win those 2 games. Since he made that statement, the team is 3-1, but I'm not, optimistic that this team's going to turn it on all of a sudden, but no move has been made yet. Have you had a change in thought from what you've seen from Pittsburgh? That's my first question. And then my second question for Tyler's Dallas Stars, he wasn't familiar with TANEV, making the move for him. Is that a move, to really be excited about, or do you think that Dallas is going to have more in the tank when it comes to getting to the deadline?
Dallas may make a few more moves, but TANEV is definitely something to be excited about. They always say in the NHL, if a defenseman has a quiet game, that's a good game. You're not talking about him on the score sheet. You're not really saying his name a lot, but he's doing all the work. Like, I know we've talked about Carlson in the past. He's up in the rush. He's shooting the puck. He's passing the puck. He's more offensive. TANEV is the kind of guy who's going to be a workhorse on the penalty kill. He's going to block shots for you. He's going to make sure you're not giving up them power play goals, and he's going to push people out of the crease, which is one of the areas the Devils needed him. He went through New Jersey. He got traded to New Jersey for salary cap retention, then sent to Dallas, and ironically, we needed TANEV. But he's a big physical body, and he's definitely something to be excited about. He's gonna kill it in Dallas, and they needed him. As far as the Penguins go, yeah, they're gonna be buyers, 100%. Dubas is an idiot. He's gonna go out. He's gonna go overpay for something. He's gonna keep Gensel because Gensel can help them if they make the playoffs. But I think they need to be sellers. And they're going to make a mistake because that's just the Dubas way. We've seen it in Toronto, and we're seeing it in Pittsburgh. And that's Dubas for you. He'll be fired in 2 years.
Couple more things I want to talk about with you. Has the MVP race started to heat up a little bit since the last time we spoke?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, big time. So Kucherov, McKinnon, they're the odds-on favorite. McDavid's always hanging in there. He's always going to be in the conversation no matter what, as long as he stays healthy. So those, as far as the top point guys go, that they're definitely, if you're betting in Vegas, they're the ones you're going to bet on. Honestly, and I absolutely fucking hate how much I have to talk about the Rangers on here. Panarin is killing it. He's performing well above what he has been in recent years. I know his point totals aren't up there with like Kucherov and McKinnon and all that, but he is carrying the Rangers. He's setting everyone up on the power play. He's kind of balanced as far as goals and assists go. I would put him as a dark horse, but unless he goes on a hot streak and kind of catches up to McKinnon and Kucherov as far as points go, I don't think he'll actually win it, but he definitely deserves a mention.
Now, you mentioned how the Lightning are kind of falling off here. Shouldn't that dictate the MVP race a little bit when you talk about like Kucherov, just because of how many points he has?
It absolutely should. It has in some rare instances. I know when Taylor Hall won for the Devils, McKinnon was kind of whooping him up in the points, but Taylor Hall single-handedly carried the Devils to their first playoff run in like 10 years. So Taylor Hall got the MVP, and that's how it should be. It's the most valuable to that team. It's not the most valuable, like the best point getter in the NHL. That's why they have the Art Ross trophy. So, I mean, if you're talking MVP candidates, it should easily be either McKinnon or Panarin right now. As far as McDavid goes, there's so many people contributing offensively on that team. You got Draisaitl, and Hyman, I think, has 40 now, which is insane. So, like, Panarin's the one who's doing all the dirty work for the Rangers. I think he should get a mention.
Any updates on this Team Canada trial?
So, not much has been updated. It's going to be a long and drawn out process. The only major update we've had is that the players involved had their request for a jury trial granted. So the players have come out in their statements and basically stated that they feel confident that a jury of their peers will exonerate them from these charges. So it's heading in the direction we all expected. Until we actually get in the courtroom, there won't be too many updates on that. But everyone should keep an eye out for it because this is a huge scandal.
And all these players are still away from their teams on paid leave, correct?
Correct. So as much as I hate Bettman, I can't really blame him for it. He doesn't want to interfere with Canada's investigation and all that as far as the actual trial goes. So the NHL has done their own investigation, and they figured, based off of everything that they've come up with, it was just better off to just let them go on paid leaves. They're all going to be free agents anyway, and then once the trial concludes, they'll go from there. But I can't blame the guy. There's no easy way to handle this, and he handled it the best he could. And I absolutely hate Bettman, so that's a compliment.
What's your reaction to what he said about the TANEV move?
Yeah, I was just going to ask regarding TANEV, is that someone who you think is going to, maybe they'll pair with Heiskanen and then that will be a good fit? Or do you think maybe he'll go on the second line and maybe pair with Lindell or Thomas Harley? Because I know you mentioned defensemen who you don't hear about. If they're quiet, they had a good game. Harley is one of those guys that you hear a lot of because he's kind of always scoring. So, and it sounds like TANEV is more of that, stay back defenseman or, someone you can pair with a scorer or an offensive minded guy.
I mean, Dallas, all around, they're a well-rounded defensive team. So, I mean, you can't really go wrong. I think probably pairing him with Harley would probably be the best option, especially with TANEV being a vet. Like, he can help shape him and, give him more confidence to do his own thing since he's holding it down in the back end.
Yeah.
That's what Luke Hughes needs in Jersey. He didn't get a chance to season in the AHL like Nemec did. There were high expectations. They just threw him right into the NHL. And they keep pairing him with people who can't cover him. Luke Hughes is an offensive defenseman. He needs a shutdown defenseman like TANEV to kind of give him confidence and let him do his own thing. So I think Harley and TANEV would probably be the best fit in Dallas, but you can't go wrong if you put him with Heiskanen.
Yeah, perfect. And then I was going to ask also who you kind of would like the Devils to go get the most as far as a defenseman who might be available on the market.
Adam fucking Larson. I want him back. We gave him up in the Taylor Hall trade. I've been begging for him back for like 3 fucking years. Oh God. He is one of my favorite players.
You got his autograph, right?
I got his autograph. I won a contest. I got to get the jersey off his back after a game. He's such a nice guy. But I love the way he plays his game. Like he's in his own end. He's clearing the crease. He gets physical. He stands up for his guys. Nobody in the fucking Devils stands up for anybody. Although they did just trade for Curtis McDermott from Colorado. I think they're prepping for Matt Rempe when they meet again. But Adam Larson is the guy I want the Devils to get. And then if they're going to get a goalie, Markstrom's not the answer. He's 34 years old. They're going to ask for a ton for him too. I would just bite the bullet, pay the price, trade Mercer in the picks, and get Saros. He's young. He's got a future ahead of him, and he's elite. So I would say Larson and Saros are the only 2 moves I want the Devils to make as far as trades go.
Heard that.
Now you're saying you weren't too optimistic about where they are right now. Do you think it's worth it to go out there and make those moves? Give up those assets for the future? Do you think it's worth it?
It depends on which assets you're giving up. Mercer, for Saros.
So talk to us, because one thing we're not familiar with, we're not, from a general manager standpoint, we don't understand like the value of picks like we would maybe in like the NBA or the NFL. Like NFL, we've had enough, we've been into the game enough where we kind of understand the value of like 1 through 7, what the picks really mean. When you're talking about the NHL and these trade assets, what are you really looking to give up, and what is considered too much?
So as far as like first round picks go, your best picks that you want to get are lottery teams, obviously. So like right now the Devils are teetering on being a lottery team or being a playoff team. So if they're in the lottery, you could have a chance to win a higher pick. So that's why Nashville is so hell bent on getting the Devils' first round pick. As far as what you're trying to get in trade assets, I mean, your 4th through 6th round picks get bounced around all the time. They're meaningless. Every once in a while, you'll hit on them. So like first through third round picks, they're valuable. Those are the prospects that you're going to develop in the minor leagues, or you're going to let them develop in the KHL. And then you got like your blue chip prospects. So you got guys who are like drafted in the second round, and we've seen them season for like 2 years in the minor leagues, and they're performing well enough to where you think they're going to make a step and contribute. So those are the ones you're going to go after. And then you have your NHL ready blue chips. Like if we were talking about the Devils, Dawson Mercer. So he's still young. I think he's becoming an RFA. So he's on his entry level contract. And then Alexander Holtz. These are guys who have just cracked into the NHL. They've been there for 1 or 2 years. They have high potential. They haven't reached it yet, or they're being buried on their team, like Alexander Holtz is. It's a fucking embarrassment how much Lindy Ruff hates him. He's like second on the team on even strength goals, and he makes one mistake, and Ruff plays him 5 minutes a night. But then you get old guys like Brendan Smith, where Ruff's playing favorites, and he commits 3 bullshit penalties that cause us to lose a game, and he's out there playing the next night 20 minutes. So, I mean, it all comes down to what your team needs, really.
Adam, it was a pleasure having you on again, talking some hockey, and we'll talk to you again soon. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yes, sir. See ya.
Once again, I want to thank Adam for coming on, talking some hockey with the boys.
Rudy.
Be sure to have him on coming up. Very fun time of year. But that is it. That is it for episode 23 of the New Score podcast. I want to thank y'all for listening. Don't forget to like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, TikTok, and X. We will see you next time. Goodbye.
Peace.
When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Try to stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a rock and roll tour. When I come to your city, I'm a new score. Broke your high score soon as I step through the door. Try to stack my paper up like a bookstore. Money kissing each other like a